Flair?
It was all scripted with Ric Flair. It was all a joke.
Oh, my Lord.
I would love to see him give him one of those chops.
That's the dumbest thing you've ever said on this show.
Ric Flair was
caused the biggest stink over the weekend because it's Patrick Reed and he bends and breaks the rules.
Hey, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
What's up, boys?
JM, what's up, bro? How's it going?
AFM, what's up?
In the house here. You know, we do have to remember that we're also, coming back in there. Oh, we're good. How you doing?
Spectacular. Except for the snow. Long time no talk.
You ever cheated golf like Patrick Reed has multiple times or no?
Always.
I tell you, golf is difficult to cheat in because if anybody's playing with you, they know that you aren't capable of making that shot that you've just told them that you made.
Yeah,
or
that's
move
true.
the ball or anything like that. I just didn't know. You look like you would cheat at golf.
Well, I'm not very good at it, so I got to do something.
That's a terrible thing to say, Eitan.
Why? People say the same thing about me. And I went from using illegal stuff, illegal equipment. Now I'm fully legal. Now I'm full on legal, John.
I don't care.
Not barely legal.
No, I don't subscribe to that. I apologize.
I need to gain every tactical advantage I can get.
Right.
Exactly. You ain't cheating, you ain't trying. NASCAR rules apply.
I spoke to you yesterday about this whole thing with Matthew Stafford and the market and all. And now we got word that Kirk Cousins could be on the move from Minnesota to San Francisco. A, what are your thoughts on that? And B, now we have to start factoring in the market again if, in fact, the Eagles were looking to trade a quarterback.
Well, that's been, Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins, loves him. So that's been going on for a while. And a lot of people thought Matthew Stafford would end up in San Francisco because he's kind of done similar to Jared Goff. Shanahan's kind of done with Jimmy Garoppolo. He knows he needs to improve. Now, I know a lot of people outside will say, is Kirk Cousins that much better? Yes, he is than Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, is he good enough to win with? I don't know about that, but Kyle loves him. So it's a possibility. Minnesota is clearly not going to win the way they've assembled that team, and they have to start to get younger. In a lot of ways, they're very similar to the Eagles, the team they were in the championship game with. They got old. They paid their star players a little bit too much. They stuck with them a little bit too long, and they're in a similar situation.
John, did the trade of Matthew Stafford for Goff and picks give you reason to think that Carson Wentz will more than likely be moved or less likely be moved?
A little bit more, but not because of the trade itself, because of the sentiment around the NFL. More people are willing to think about that NBA-like trade or the baseball-like trade where you dump a salary, you dump a toxic asset, as they call it. So more teams are willing to at least think about that, and that makes it a little bit more likely. But I keep going back to this dead money figure, guys. Look, the Rams had the record. It was $21.8 million. Goff is $22.2 million. So they just raised the precedent by $400,000. The Eagles would have to destroy that by $11 million. That's still tough to do, especially for Jeffrey Lurie. He doesn't seem like that type of guy.
Well, just looking at that, and everybody was saying that Nick Sirianni was the reason he was made the coach because his reasoning behind he could fix Carson Wentz. Did it change in any way how you thought of Nick Sirianni after the press conference and his ability to fix Carson Wentz from what he said?
No, not from what he said. I mean, he didn't say anything. And it's hard to judge any coach on his first press conference. I do look at Indianapolis, and because of what happened there, you had Andrew Luck, Frank and Nick were probably giddy. They probably thought they were going to have this guy for 10 years, star quarterback. And all of a sudden he turns around and retires at 29 in late August, by the way. And
Right.
they had to get Jacoby Brissett up to speed in about 2 weeks. They were, they were 7-9, but they weren't terrible. They did some good things. And then they brought in Phillip Rivers as for the last year of his career. So they built their offense around 3 different quarterbacks. That to me is pretty impressive. That it shows the willingness to change, to be malleable, depending who the quarterback is. So that kind of stuff I look at is positive. But I don't care what he says. He doesn't even know if Carson's going to be here right now. That's a Jeffrey Lurie decision.
Well, how much of it, and we're chatting with our NFL insider, John McMullen, courtesy of Jacob Media at JF McMullen, joining us. I saw earlier, leading into today, everybody's going crazy over this Albert Breer report that Carson Wentz, quote, isn't exactly pleased to be in Philadelphia. And just looking at the chronology of it, the new head coach, everybody is in here, and the idea of fixing Carson Wentz. To your knowledge, to your reach, how much of what's happened over the last 10 to 14 days has even impacted Carson Wentz and his want to be here, positive or negative?
Yeah, I don't think it's either way. I think he doesn't want to be here. I think it's pretty clear he'd like a head start, a fresh start somewhere else, but it's not that easy. Same with Deshaun Watson. I mean, he doesn't want to play in Houston. It's not that easy. In the case of Watson, obviously you have a star player, and that part is not the hurdle. Carson's coming off a terrible year. You got the contract issues, as I mentioned, the dead money issues. You got some reputation issues. Let's be honest. Other teams see this and say, why aren't you happy with this organization? They just paid you $128 million. They gave you the keys to the franchise. You won a Super Bowl. Granted, you were injured. You made the postseason 3 times. You were a part of this culture. Why are you so unhappy? That plays into it as well for other teams. And then you look at it and say, okay, Trevor Lawrence, forget about him. That's number 1. But Zach Wilson's going to go in the top 10. Justin Fields is going to go in the top 10. Trey Lance might go in the top 10. Would you rather have a young guy under a cost-effective rookie deal if you're looking for a quarterback, or a guy who's disgruntled making $25 million a year?
I'd rather have Matt Ryan.
Yeah. But John, what about Friday and Nick Sirianni's first media appearance impressed you? Like, what did you come away with a nugget or two where you're saying, hey, yeah, I kind of like what he said there?
No. I mean, but from a reporter standpoint, look, I'll be honest. We want Dan Campbell. I want eating kneecaps. That's what I want. This guy's boring. He's not going to say anything interesting. But that's like every young coach. You get in front of a hot mic, you just start spitting cliches. He was a little bit nervous, but today was on their flagship, the Eagles' flagship radio station. He'll get better, but he's playing the hits. He's saying the same thing over and over again. I got a PhD from Frank Reich in leadership, competition. Yeah, it's all cliches.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that he said that Howie Roseman, so I could point the finger at Howie Roseman now with the 53-man roster. It's up to him. He's the last
line
guy
of defense.
He's the guy that's going to make that decision, and then he said that he'd have control over the 47-man roster on game day. But what if Howie?
He said maybe. He didn't even know, Barrett. But, you could point that finger before. The 53, Howie's always had control since Howie 2.0 has always had control. But, that's not that big of a deal. I was shocked, the beat writers, we have this pool where we guess the final 53. We put $5 in the pot, and whoever gets the most wins. The winner always gets 52. If you're at practice every day and you don't know who's going to be on this football team, you got no clue what's going on. So ultimately, when you talk about power over the final 53, you might be talking about 1 or 2 players on the back end of the roster. Who cares?
Who's the best at doing that?
Bo Wolf is back-to-back champion. 3
Wow.
years
Yeah.
ago, 3 years ago, I won with 52.
Okay.
Is there a belt? Is there like a championship belt that you wear for the year?
Bo made his own belt, I believe. Which is
Wow. That is awesome. Oh man.
Not made his own belt. I think he purchased the belt, but I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Look at this. Look at
There
this.
we go.
Now, where did you get this? What is this in reference to?
This is a belt, folks. All right.
Okay.
This is not this past season because of COVID, but 2 years ago, I won the Bowl Pick'em at Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, the iHeart radio station, where both Barrett and Harry can be heard.
Okay.
And I was the winner. I nailed the majority of the bowls. Crushed. This thing is heavy.
Now, have you worn the belt?
Get Bo Wolf in touch with me, John. I'll hook him up with a real belt. Look at this.
Have you worn the belt, Eitan?
No, I have not worn it, but I do use it. I do have it behind me when I'm streaming on that channel.
Well, because
Yeah,
if
you
you don't
love
wear
it.
it, if you don't wear it, what they do is they sling it over their shoulder when they walk into
over the
into
shoulder,
the ring. Yeah. So yeah,
And you
right.
got to get a
No, the other way. Yeah. That
You
way.
got to get a Ric Flair robe as well.
Yes.
I'm out.
Woo!
On I know this is you can't say this to a wrestling person, but that guy, he wasn't a good wrestler.
Yeah, he
Come on.
was.
Who?
Kidding.
Who?
He it
Flair.
was,
Ric Flair?
it was all scripted with Ric
Oh,
Flair. It was
jeez.
all a joke.
Oh my Lord!
I would love to
The
see
greatest
him
worker
give him
of all
one of those
time. That's the
chops.
dumbest thing you've ever said on this show.
Ric Flair was the biggest benefactor of fake wrestling. That guy was a slob for the majority of his career.
Hey,
But it's
Uh,
written.
I
they
think
were
you
all
got the wrong
slobs
guy.
back then.
No, come on. You had a royal Adonis bodies out
You ever
there.
see Dusty Rhodes?
Yeah,
He was a
I think
slob.
you're thinking about Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
You got Ric Flair. That's Space Mountain, baby.
That's right.
Ask Halle Berry about Ric Flair.
Well, I'm out on Halle Berry then, if that's the case. If I have to make a point and excommunicate Halle Berry out of my life, then I have to do that.
Wow.
That's terrible, man. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That's who you are right now. That's what we think about you. Hacksaw.
Used to love that guy, man. Right? That guy, like, come on. As a kid, that was probably one of my earlier, not the earliest, but and you're an impressionable kid.
Yeah. Were you walking around the house with a 2x4 over your shoulder?
You know how many splinters I had? And this is what I'm saying. My kid is going to do the same thing I was walking around and I would smash things with that thing too. Swinging it. My mom would throw stuff at me. Get the hell out of the house.
John, see what you started, man.
I'm stunned.
Man.
You better not walk into an NFL locker room and say something bad about Ric Flair.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. Well, speaking of locker room, we're talking to Sirianni. He's finally starting to lock down. He has his 3 coordinators now, quarterback, coach. How do you think that direction is going? Because I like Johnson. Brian Johnson's a guy I did an ACC championship game 2 years ago, and I was able to sit down and talk to him. And he had Kyle and what's his name? Emory Jones were his 2 quarterbacks, and he had 2 different systems for both quarterbacks. Kyle Trask was a guy that he go sit back, drop back, get the ball out. Then he had Emory Jones as a guy that's an athlete, kind of like Hurts, who could throw the ball, but he was more so an athlete as opposed to being a quarterback. He was in the the red zone, wildcat type of guy.
And that's kind of like what I liked about Nick and the fact that he's worked with Locke and Brissett and Rivers, who are 3 different quarterbacks. You have kind of, the top tier skill set. You got the dual threat guy. You got the pure pocket passer. So, Brian's worked with Dak Prescott. He has a relationship with Jalen Hurts from back in Texas. So it'll be interesting. The biggest concern with me is experience. And I've mentioned that before. Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator's 37, never been a coordinator before. Michael Clay is 29.
Can you believe it?
Special teams coordinator.
I got kids.
And,
I got kids older than him.
Yeah, and Shane Steichen is 35. So, typically when you have these rookie head coaches, you give them an ex-head coach just to be a sounding board for the other stuff, the ancillary stuff, dealing with the media, all the logistics, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm most concerned about because none of these guys have done it.
John, give us a sec. We got to take a quick break on the network. We'll be back to wrap the hour coming up. It is The Middle, phillyvoice.com/The Middle and Sports Map Radio.
Attention women of South Jersey and the Delaware Valley. Sign up right now with Our Lady NRA instructor Nayara Andrzak, who will teach you gun safety as part of this 3-hour safety class, which is being held at Delaware Valley Sports Center in Philadelphia. For information, drop an email to info@DelawareValleySportsCenter.com. That's info@DelawareValleySportsCenter.com. Learn the fundamentals at Delaware Valley Sports Center. You can't miss.
All right.
John, what is your favorite branch on the Nick Sirianni winning tree?
Favorite branch on the Nick Sirianni winning tree? Is there
It's
a
got
Nick
5
Sirianni
branches.
winning tree?
Yeah, there's 5 branches apparently. I read these on Friday.
IUP? Pennsylvania,
It was on
Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference.
Yeah, he was at IUP, but there's 5 branches.
You pay.
And it was connect and trust is number 1.
I
Compete
see
with
what
each
you're
other's
saying.
number 2.
Oh,
Number 3 is accountability. 4, playing smart football. And 5, fundamentals.
Well, that's what I was talking about with the cliches. I mean, how boring is that?
Yeah.
Oh, competition. You know, we talked about it today as well. Quarterback, every position is going to have competition. Let me tell you something. You think, somebody's competing with Fletcher Cox, the more that's easy to talk about, meritocracy, blah, blah, blah. Let's be honest. The really good teams, you don't have a lot of competition.
You're
You
right.
know the stars are playing.
Right.
You
Because they
know
got
the
players that are
stars
secured.
playing.
Yeah.
So that to me is just coach speak. And look, I'm not going to criticize him for it. Everybody does it. But look, you don't want competition. You want the exact opposite. You want good players.
Period. Point blank. You shouldn't be a competition because the more competition you have, the less the players you are in the midst of being great players. So I understand that, but still though, I like the fact when he said that he had start a connection with the players, and if you can start a connection by telling them and showing them that you can make them a better player, and then from that point on get trust. I like that part of this. Of his press conference. I like the fact that he understood that he has to gain the players' trust. But I don't know if he can get Carson out of this. Can he get Carson to a position where he trusts him?
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's why it was unfair. Everybody kind of jumped on him about not being more clear about Carson Wentz. And it's because he doesn't know. That's what I said. That's an organizational decision. So I think he could have handled it better. If you look at David Culley in Houston, he said, hey, I'm here because I'm Deshaun Watson. I want him to be here. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And guess what? If it doesn't work, then you talk about it at the press conference after it didn't work.
Right.
I would have handled it differently.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know if Carson Wentz is going to be here.
When are we going to hear from Carson? When do you think? Ever? Before the draft?
It's interesting. I mean, they have to make a decision. Really 3 days, I think, after the start of the new league year.
Like in mid-March or something, right?
21st.
Yeah, March 17th. Yeah. So about March 20th, somewhere in that range.
Mm.
But, in the modern NFL, as you just saw with Stafford, you can agree to trades during this process. So we might know before that, but ultimately the Eagles will make a decision. And if he's going to be here, he'll talk. If he's not going to be here, he'll talk in his new city.
Wow.
Eitan bolted on us, Barrett.
I see.
Yeah.
That's because we got Mullins. He left us with that hacksaw Jim Duggan jargon. So
I guess Ron Culver's going to have to handle the final minute of the radio show.
I see. But do you see this team being talented enough to even compete in our division with what we have right now?
Not right now, but a lot of decisions have to be made. The draft is coming up. They do have the 6th pick. Look, man, if you get Jamar Chase at wide receiver, for instance, and everything falls into place, you got a true number one. All of a sudden, maybe Jalen Rager's better suited to be a number two. You know, you see this all the time, and the parts start to click. Whereas, you know, if you have to, I remember Green Bay when Jordy Nelson was at the top of his game, and he was just a star receiver. And he tore his ACL that one year, and Randall Cobb, who was a great number two, had to be the number one.
Yep.
Yeah, wasn't well suited for it.
Nope.
So it didn't work as well. So you never know how the parts fit in this league. If you make good decisions on the personnel front, you can turn things around pretty quickly. And remember, the Eagles get that last place schedule, so that helps as well.
All right, Eitan's power went out apparently.
Oh,
The net
having
just went down with the power. He's rebooting as we are, but we're in overtime right now anyway. So we're off. There he is. There he is.
Yeah, I lost power, so I had to wait for everything to reset.
Oh my God.
That's the weather, baby. The weather.
Wow.
It is.
How much snow did you get, John?
I am dodging the bullet. So far, we got about 3 inches.
That's what we got.
Some wintry mix, keeping the accumulation down. That's the best you can ask for.
Right.
Yeah, we got.
But you get that heavy snow. That's awful.
I must live in such a shitty area for like service and Pico and everything because I lose power a lot.
Mm.
And I'd never lost power like this in Conshohocken.
No.
You're not paying enough in taxes. See, you.
Trust me, I'm paying.
Where I live at,
Man.
our taxes are so high that if anything goes wrong, my neighbors and the rest of the township, they get so pissed off that they get scared to let something not happen, bro.
Yeah.
What I do, and this is going to upset Eitan because I got the blue check mark, so I just complain. Like, if you put something on Twitter and say somebody's service is bad,
yeah,
I had the vice president of Comcast, South Jersey, over here.
No.
Yeah.
See, Barry, you need to start doing that.
Barrett could do it even more.
I'm being banned by Twitter or shadowed, whatever that term is. So I don't
shadow ban. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I'll have somebody with 400,000 followers retweet something, and I'll watch the impressions. I don't care about likes or retweets. I'm not worried about that. I'm just talking about impressions, and they will not move up.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will be as slow and exponentially slow as if I first put it out there, no matter who is adding to the impressions. So it's frustrating because for whatever reason, I have been tagged or flagged as somebody dangerous to Twitter. And
that you are.
Right, because I constantly am tweeting about government.
Well, Twitter is a hellscape, but if it can help me,
I would rather the missiles come from China or Russia and wipe us off the face of the earth if that meant no more Twitter. Like, I would rather sacrifice me and you and everybody else out there if that meant the end of Twitter. That's how much I would cut my own nose off to spite our entire collective face. Because that's the only way that Twitter's going to go is if somebody takes us out. And I'm
with you. Twitter is awful. Twitter is the worst people in the world. There's no question about that.
Yeah, it's terrible. All right.
It is.
So let's do this now officially. It is overtime. John McMullen hanging out with us. Overtime, of course, brought to you by Book It Sports.
Are you looking for a place to track your action, purchase picks, and share your sports betting analysis with the gambling community? Check out Book It Sports, a social media platform with an unparalleled experience catered for the sports betting community. On the Book It Sports app, you can track all your NFL, NBA, and college basketball picks while getting real-time updates and injury reports all in one convenient place. Start building your following today and stand out amongst your friends by downloading the Book It Sports app on the Apple and Google Play stores. Let's cash some tickets and put it on Book It.
All right, each and every day we spend some time on Overtime with Barrett Brooks, Harry Mays, Eitan Shander, and the great John McMullen today. Anything we didn't get to or spills over in any form or fashion. So I don't want to interrupt what you guys were talking about when I blipped out of here. We can continue on that.
You can see the press conference. The press conference, who you think was the grand finale? He was second to last. Mr. McMullen was second to last as far as, the questions they took in that press conference, man.
That's why, yeah, I was
respect.
minus. I think Crossing Broad had me at minus 140 to go first.
Who went first?
Howard or Ruben?
Zach Berman.
Oh wow.
Why? What is that like a thing that, hey, you know, we always let Zach go first because he's the nicest.
Well,
of
yeah,
everybody?
Zach is the president of the Pro Football Writers, the Philadelphia chapter. So typically, inside baseball for people that want to bet, typically for the big press conferences, they're going to default to him as first because he's the president.
Okay.
I used to be the vice president. Mike Kay is now. So,
Yeah, we love that.
yeah, don't bet on me.
Where's Kempsky in that hierarchy?
Jimmy's just in the normal reporter hierarchies. So all of us kind of.
I'm surprised they even let him on. He stays after them. He stays saying something to them.
Yeah, Jimmy was last. I think Jimmy closed it out. Usually that's Rob Motti's spot because they're trying to save Doug Peterson from himself, but
Right.
Doug's no longer here.
What an amazing. What's the worst question you've ever heard asked by a media member at the press conference, whatever press conference it may be?
Well, it's usually a TV person, and it's usually got something to do about your high school yearbook. I'll just leave it at that.
Would you actually be referring to a current member of the media who would be asking that question?
Don't say it.
Tremendous. No. I would never do that. Tremendously nice guy, though.
That's
Oh,
fine.
Just one of those things.
I was just curious,
You
like
know,
what, because I remember you were, I'm sure, there for this one. There was a young man who covered a lot of like politics and government stuff that was asked to cover the beat of the Eagles years ago. And I think this is maybe up in Lehigh or last year in Lehigh. And no name. He's a nice kid. I had a chance to meet him at all. And we were both kind of similar age. And I remember he asked Andy Reid a question. And Andy Reid on the surface completely undressed him. And, you know, like Cataldi, they're playing the clip. I can't believe it. But then you start to listen to the clip, and he's actually taking the time out to explain to this guy and educate him on why the question should maybe not be asked or where the better way is and kind of the angle and answer to it. So that's why I asked, because I think sometimes we look at that's such a stupid question. But the reality is that even the people who are being asked that don't see it that way, and then maybe give you a better answer to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's more difficult in Zoom world because you don't have one-on-ones with people. So if you do want to ask somebody something a little bit off the beaten path, you have to do it in front of everybody else, and that's typically not the way you would do it. So things have changed, but it's weird, you know. When you cover the Eagles, people pay way too much attention to what we're doing. What you know, what McLean is asking, what you know, who's going first. You know, like I said, Crossing Broad wrote a whole story on who's going first at the Nick Sirianni press conference. None of us care. And the second part is, you know, people will say, you know, Nick was nervous or Nick won the press conference, he lost the press conference. You know, our goal is to get information. The most boring thing to me, as I said, is the cliches.
Mm-hmm.
You could be smooth as you know what. If you're giving us cliches, it's not interesting. That's all we care about.
Why do you think Bieniemy never interviewed with the Eagles?
I think he knew he wasn't getting the job, and you know he didn't want to. Then you have this weird disconnect. Tony Dungy brought this up. I heard it too. I mentioned it on the show that the Eagles were concerned about going with another Andy Reid guy. That was going around the league, not only with Eric but also with Mike Kafka. It's strange to me if the Eagles had a problem with that. But, you know, you have that sentiment that Andy was responsible for this organization's success. Doug came from Andy, won a Super Bowl. Maybe you have a little Jerry Jones jealousy developing with Jeffrey Lurie. Who knows?
Yeah, because I know I know if you look at it, man, it's the dynamics of the way they hired the guy, where they hired Doug is dramatically different because they had everybody involved with hiring Doug. They had former players, as far as guys. I mean, they were asking ex quarterbacks even, help us out.
Jaws was in there.
Yeah, Jaws, ex GMs, and Matt Millen, talking to him. I mean, they had a lot of people involved with this whole process. I think it was more so streamlined this year as opposed to anything else.
Well, it's got to be because, everything's virtual. But I will say that, back in 2016, they wanted Adam Gase, no matter what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted Ben McAdoo. And then they ended up, it basically came down to, okay, let's call Andy and see what he thinks. Now, other people were involved, but as Barrett said, and that's how they landed on Doug Peterson. This time, it seems to be, look, they got started late. They never had a shot at Saleh. They never had a shot at Arthur Smith. Bieniemy didn't want to interview. Brandon Staley got the Chargers job. He bowed out.
Daboll stayed with Buffalo, didn't interview.
Yeah, Daboll didn't want to interview. Kafka didn't want to interview. Seems like they called Frank Wright. Okay, we can't call Andy. Let's call Frank.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Do you think, and it's a hypothetical, but do you honestly think that if they were the first team to fire their head coach instead of the last, that anything would truly change as far as who they would have hired?
Yeah, I think they would have hired. They would have tried to hire Arthur Smith. I think that would have been their first guy. Saleh, I don't know. Defensive mind, I find it hard to believe that Jeffrey would hire a defensive coach. And that's why I kind of lean towards Arthur Smith. Yeah, I mean, they were behind. They were 8 days behind. Those guys were already in deep negotiations with their teams to be head coaches. The Eagles were behind when it came to and they were the hot candidates. So I do think it would have changed. I do think it would have changed things.
Okay, fair enough. Now we're back on Tuesday. We got Martinez with us. You're going to be back with us on Thursday, correct?
Correct. If you want me.
And we'll need a full Super Bowl prediction on Thursday.
Yeah, we want everything.
All right,
maybe you come dressed as Bruce Arians.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
A little Kangol hat Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. I was out shoveling. So
yeah, bottle of Crown Royal.
Yeah.
Out shoveling what, if we may ask?
I don't know what Bruce wears. What is that thing? I can't get one of those. I don't even know what the heck it is.
Yeah, that belt or whatever it is.
I got a belt right here for you. You can wear this.
The championship belt?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, John.
Again, everybody head out to the Marketplace, Apple, Google Marketplace. Find out more. Be a part of it. I got busted on a couple of bets on the Book It app this weekend. I'm sure Harry did as well. Every now and again, you hit something. But we appreciate everybody rocking with us. John is already out. We're back tomorrow. Overtime here for Barrett Brooks, Harry Mays, Eitan Shander. We'll see you tomorrow. All courtesy Book It Sports.
Are you looking for a place to track your action, purchase picks, and share your sports betting analysis with the gambling community? Check out Book It Sports, a social media platform with an unparalleled experience catered for the sports betting community. On the Book It Sports app, you can track all your NFL, NBA, and college basketball picks while getting real-time updates and injury reports all in one convenient place. Start building your following today and stand out amongst your friends by downloading the Book It Sports app on the Apple and Google Play stores. Let's cash some tickets and put it on Book It.